yeah, for anyone, you can switch off their camera if needed.
Yes.
Good shout. All right. Yes, we are recording. So if you do not wish to be on this recording, please switch off your cameras. Thank you. And welcome to Speckle's Community StandUp. My name is Senda. I am the product marketing manager here at Speckle. And Bilal, you're not sharing the slides. And today we are bringing back the community stand-ups. We're trying to be more regular so that we can answer any questions you have. As you can notice, most of the team is here today. And we have a packed agenda. So we will be focusing on Power BI today. So a packed demo from Bilal, including most of the improvements that were introduced in the latest release. And we also have a secret, which is not so secret anymore, contribution from a community member, Chuck, who's with us today, who will demo Nodepen and how that is powered by Speckle. And of course, we will leave time for questions and share what's next with Speckle. So before we do that, just a final and quick reminder that since our last community stand-up, we released Speckle 2.15. You still have time to make sure that you have it downloaded and updated. And a core or the biggest update of this release is Power BI. We've also seen a few community contributions that we've been sharing on our blog post, including Snaptrude, BNG, GaiUp, and FDB, which are AEC firms who have been using Speckle in many innovative ways. So we encourage you to look at them if you haven't had a chance to yet. And as mentioned, the main focus today will be on the intersection of Power BI and Speckle, and most specifically the importance of business intelligence in AEC and how data is at the heart of everything we do, and we wanted to showcase that today by demoing our Power BI connector. So with no further ado, Bilal, fire away.
All right, thank you, Senda. Hey, everyone. This is Bilal from Speckle. I am a solutions architect, and today we are going to talk about connection we created for Power BI. So as you know, Power BI is a business intelligence and data visualization tool that allows you to transform your raw data into interactive and visually appealing reports and dashboards. Some key features of the Power BI starts with the data connections it has. So it connects to a wide range of data sources, including databases, cloud services, and online data sets. And it allows you to transform your data with Power Query. So you can do any cleanups, extend, and make it ready for your report. You can create interactive reports in Power BI. It has a really easy to use drag and drop interface, which allows you to create visualizations like charts, graphs, maps, and tables. So you can get real-time insights from your Power BI reports. That is actually what we are going to highlight in this session. We will connect to the Speckle server and do some, send some new versions from Revit, see those changes being reflected in Power BI. And finally, you can also do natural language queries on your data. Recently, Power BI enabled a Q&A feature, which allows you to ask questions using natural language and receive instant visual answers. So we talked about the extensive data connections Power BI has, but does it really connect to the AEC applications we use? The answer is no, to be honest. So Power BI, even though it's a really powerful data visualization and it allows you to get data insights from data sources, it does not really connect to AEC applications. So your BIM, CAD, GIS data is stuck in the host applications. And this is actually where Speckle shines. Speckle connects to various applications, allowing you to exchange data between different apps. And specifically, we're going to highlight the connection from AEC applications to Power BI in this session. And specifically, we're going to talk about the Revit Power BI connection. So let's dive into it. What are we going to do? First, we are going to send our model from Revit to Speckle and then receive it in Power BI. In Power BI, we are going to view the model in 3D within the Power BI environment, and then we're going to extract some metadata, some properties from what we sent from Revit. And we will use the coloring functionality of the 3D viewer visual to color our model in 3D. And then we'll also highlight the link aspect of the connection. We're going to make some changes on the Revit end, send those to Speckle, and see them getting reflected on the Power BI end. And finally, we will also extend the received Speckle data with an external data source. In this case, we will extend the Revit data with another table created in Excel. So there are two different environments. One is the data source in that case is Revit, and another one is Excel. And we're going to create a relationship between those two data sources in Power BI. So what's our scenario? In this case, we will create a 3D real estate dashboard for our client who owns the famous Snowdon Towers building, right? He wants to understand how much money he's going to make out of this building. And this is going to be the output of this session. We will create this beautiful dashboard where we have the 3D viewer as well as Power BI's built-in visual cards and graphs and charts. All right, so without further ado, let's jump into Revit. In this case, the first step of going from Revit to Speckle is you need to create a project. In this case, I already created a Speckle project for this community stand-up, and I will send only the rooms from this model to a model that I created in Speckle named rooms. And the way I filtered out only the rooms category is by simply selecting category from this drop-down menu and search for rooms and select it. Once I do that, when I click on send, what this Speckle connector does is it converts Revit rooms into a Speckle compatible format, which is platform neutral. So we can receive the Revit data converted into Speckle data in Power BI. So what I can do now is I can actually share this link in the chat. So if you want, you can also view this model. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the data coming from Revit inside the Speckle interface. As you can see, rooms are 3D. Why? Because if you don't know it, now you're going to be surprised. Rooms are actually 3D elements in Revit. They have a boundary, they have a volume, so that's why you see them as 3D entities inside Speckle. So now what we're going to do is we're going to receive this data in Power BI. So let's do that. Here I am in Power BI, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Get Data. And if you installed the Speckle connector correctly, which we already have a tutorial for, you can follow that video, and it should show up under the data sources. So what I'm going to do now is simply paste the URL that I shared in the chat and paste it into this dialog and click on OK. So I already authenticated, so my connection to the server is secure, and the data is fetched right here. So once I click on load, my data from Revit, the BIM data with its geometry and everything, is now getting received inside the Power BI environment in a tabular format, right? So that's actually, we received the data. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to rename this query to rooms, like so. And let's view this in 3D inside Power BI. I'll add the 3D viewer visual. Let's actually make it something like this. And I'm also going to collapse the filters so you can see it better. So let's select the 3D viewer visual. And once you do that, you can see this asks for a couple inputs. In this case, the mandatory inputs to view your model in 3D are the first three ones: stream URL, commit object ID, and object ID. And if you examine the received data, we automatically generate those columns for you. So you don't have to go get into Power Query, extract those, etc. You don't have to do any of that. So simply drag and drop the stream URL into the stream URL input. Do the same for commit object ID and object ID. Once you do that, you can view your model inside Power BI. This is already pretty magical. So we send the data, we received it in Power BI, we viewed it in 3D. Let's extract some useful information out of the received data. So I will open Power Query by clicking on Transform Data button. And as I said, the data from Revit is now in Power BI in a tabular format. And the structure of the data is we automatically generate some columns, and one of those columns is Speckle type. This indicates the type of the object, right? If you examine it, you can see there are some mesh objects, which represents the geometry of the room element. In this case, we're not really interested in the geometry, but rather we are interested in the room object itself. So I am going to select object.buildElements and .room. And there is this record thing right next to it. So in this case, records represents the object itself, because BIM elements and any elements inside CAD applications, BIM applications, GIS applications, they have complex structures, so they can't be easily represented as lists or tables inside Power BI. So the data type that corresponds to that object structure in Power BI is records. So that's why they are received as record objects. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select one of them, and we can actually see the properties of this room element, such as its name is highlighted under the name key. We can see its number. We can see its area as well as its level. So these are the 4 keys that I'm going to extract from the received data. And how do we do that? There are multiple ways. In this case, I'm going to go to Add Column, click on Custom Column, and then within this dialog, I will give my new column name the name of name. And simply, we're going to extract from the data column. We want to get the key name. If I click on OK, now we can see the names of the room elements like so. Let's do the same for number. I'll name the column name as number, and it's going to live inside the data column number key. Let's extract that. Here are the numbers. And also, let's do it one more time for area. It's going to be inside data and area. Click on OK. And ta-da, we have the areas available here. The data type of area should be decimal. So I'm going to change that by simply clicking on this and change it to decimal number. We could have done that within the Power Query environment as well. But just to keep things simple, I'll go with the UI elements. And lastly, we also want to extract the level information, right? Let's do that. I'll click on Custom Column, name my column as level. That lives inside data and level. Click on OK. And as I said, as you can see, the extracted value is also another record object. So that is because, BIM elements, they may be complex. So records can also contain records. That's why in this case, I'm going to select one of the records and see what value I want to extract. In this case, they have the name, the elevation, whether if the view creates, whether if the level creates a view in Revit, etc. We can see all of its properties here. In this case, I am only interested in the name of the level. So what I will do is I will edit this query by clicking on this gear icon right next to the step and say extract the name of the level too. And click on OK. Once I do that, I get access to the names of the levels. And as you can see, we also get a bunch of errors. That is because those keys, name, area, level, etc., does not exist in a mesh geometry. And we can easily get rid of them by highlighting the red line and click on Remove Errors. And ta-da! Now, our data does not contain any errors. So let's load this back into Power BI because we cleaned our data, right? We extended it with, we extracted some metadata from the received elements. And let's wait while it updates. All right, it's loaded. And next step is actually coloring the elements, right? And since we already extracted the data, we can easily use one of those to color our elements. So the 3D Viewer visual has a color by functionality. I'll simply drag and drop the level as the color by input, and it will color elements based on their levels. Okay, awesome. Let's now add some Power BI elements to our dashboard as well. I'll start with the slicer. And in the slicer, I will have my levels. Let's make this a bit smaller so we have room for other visuals as well. And the beautiful thing about this connection is actually, let me add a tooltip data to my visual as well. So when I select an item here, I get to see what its name is, right? I can do the same for number and level 2. So this tooltip data will show up in the viewer when I select an item here. We can rename this from this dialog like so. Instead of first name, it says name. Let's do the same for number and level. And perfect. Now, when I select the room in the 3D Viewer visual, I can see its name, its number, as well as its level. The beautiful thing about this connection is it also interacts with other elements, right? So if I filter out levels in this visual, they also get isolated in the 3D Viewer visual. Let's do the same for level 2, level 3, so on and so forth. So this is the interaction part. Now what I want to do is I want to highlight the live aspect of this connection. So what I will do is I will color my rooms by their names instead of their levels. So I can see what rooms have the same name. And I will select this one, which lives on the level 5, and its name is office unit. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change the room name in Revit, send it to Speckle, and receive it, and see those changes getting reflected here. So I'll change it to green roof, right? Let's switch back to Revit now. And here I will open level 5. And it is slower than usual, as always. And what I will do is I'll select this office unit room here and change its name to green roof and apply. After I do that, I'll send this back to Speckle. So again, it's doing the same conversion process, uploading it to Speckle server, and then I'll go back to Power BI and simply click on refresh. So this will fetch the new version we sent from Revit, and hopefully those changes will get reflected in the data type as well as in the 3D Viewer visual. So let's wait a minute so it refreshes. And ta-da! Now this item is not an office unit anymore, it is green roof. So you can make your changes on the Revit environment, send those to Speckle, and see those getting reflected in Power BI. So this was the live link aspect of this connection. Finally, I also want to cover how to extend your Revit data with an external data source. In this case, what I have is I have an Excel sheet right here for rent prices. So I have my room names in one column, and then in another column, I have the rent price per square meter. And what I want to do is I want to get how much money I'm going to make from those spaces in my building, right? So let's do that. I'll close this Excel table. And let's go back to Power BI. And inside Power BI, I'll click on the Excel workbook. And within this dialog, I will select rent prices Excel file. Click on Open. And this will open the Excel workbook within the Power BI. And we will get the chance to select what we want to get into this environment. Okay, here we have it. And I will select the table. And okay, it's much slower than usual. I guess that's because I'm screen sharing. And click on Load. And this will load the Excel data into my Power BI environment, hopefully. Let me actually close Revit. Hopefully it gets a bit faster. Right, so we have our new table right here. And I will also rename this table to rent prices. So now what I want to do is I want to create a relationship between these two tables using the modeling environment in Power BI, because I had my room names in the Excel table. I already have room names in Revit. I can easily relate those two data to each other. So simply drag the room name into the name column in our rooms table. And just like that, we've created a relationship between the two using the room names. So now what I want to do is I want to calculate the total rent I'm going to get out of this rooms using their room area. So I want to create a new column in my table. I'll simply select this, click on New Column, and then I will name this column as Total Rent. And this rent will be the duplication of rooms area by the related data coming from the rent prices table, and the column name is rent. And I'll simply click on Apply. And this will add a new column just like that. Okay, so let's see how much money we're going to make. I'm going to add a new cart here and simply drag and drop the total rent is the total rent inputs. And I'll also select this and make this in dollars and 2 decimals. And it looks like we're going to make 13.40K out of it. Hopefully that's correct. And I will also add the total area as another card here, so I can see the total number of area here. And let's add some more visuals into our table. I'll start with seeing maybe the total area by their room names. So I can simply add a tree map into my visual and say I want to see the total area by their room names. Right? Okay, now it is behaving correctly. Oh. So because we were not making 13K out of that building at all, we should at least make $1 million out of it, right? And we see the correct numbers here. And our total area in that building is 56.38K, which is okay. All right, so yes, we can see the total area by names. Let's see how it distributes to levels. Simply drag and drop the details as the levels, so we can see like we are making a lot of money live we have a lot of live work units. We can see their distribution by level like so easily, and we can also see how much money we are making out of each level maybe. And I'll add a new funnel chart into my dashboard like so. And here I will have the category as the levels and value as the total rent I'm getting out of it. So we can see we are making most money out of level 4, right? We are making around 391K. We can see then it's level 3 and then level 4, level 1, so on and so forth. So yeah, as you can see, when you receive your data, when you free your data from the host application's proprietary file formats, you can do a lot of things in environments like Power BI. You can clean it, receive it, visualize it, color it in any way you want. But also you can extend it with external data sources. So if you want to learn more about this, we've been creating a bunch of resources and tutorials around this. Simply head over to speckle.systems and then /tutorials. As I said, we've published a bunch of tutorials. And also don't forget to check our YouTube channel, youtube@speckle.systems. Any questions? Sanda?
Thank you, Bilal, for this amazing demo. Your owner will be happy with the business intelligence and insights that you're providing. I was keeping an eye on the chat. I think most of the questions were answered. One remains, which is Victor, good to see you. How does authentication work with the PBI connector? Say we distribute this file with colleagues without Speckle accounts.
Okay, Alan, you want to answer that?
Yeah, sure. So we're still in the middle of figuring out the whole authentication problem. So the Power BI connector, which is the one that fetches the data into tabular format, allows you to fetch the data if it's public, like anonymously, and if it's private, you can use either a private token or more commonly your your Speckle account of choice. But that is only used when you're setting up the report. For people that are viewing the report, the main restriction right now is that our 3D visual doesn't allow for authentication at all. We're still trying to figure out that part. So right now you could share your reports with anybody, because in order to create your report, your stream needs to be public or set to sharing true, or whatever we're calling it nowadays. So in theory, right now, once you've set it up, since the stream has to be public in order for the 3D visual to work, you would have to, that would work for anybody that you share your report with. In the future, there would be some sort of login mechanism on the visual so that people could log into their Speckle accounts. If you want to share it with people that don't have a Speckle account, then again, you would be in the same problem of having to have your stream public for them to be able to access that information in Speckle, if that makes sense.
I see another question from Suzanne on combining multiple streams on a single visualization. Suzanne, we recently released a video on our YouTube channel on how to do that. So you can go there and take a look at that video. I see another one from Anegha. Since Speckle Viewer is not verified by Microsoft, it doesn't allow us to publish the reports. Are there plans of getting this visualizer verified? I mean, we published it and it worked from our end. Alan?
You may be using an account that has extra restrictions on your company side, possibly. We want to verify the visual, but we don't have an ETA for that right now. It's something that we are actively looking into.
All right. If anyone else has questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask them directly to Professor Bilal, which is his official name on LinkedIn.
It's not.
Otherwise, I will also post the links in the chat. So we also have docs that are very detailed and the tutorials. If no questions, we can move on to Chuck, if you're still with us, hopefully.
Hello.
Hey, so you do have time to demo whenever you wanted to demo. But yeah, we're introducing Chuck, who is very happy to showcase Nodepen today, which is powered by Speckle, and he will tell us more. So I'll just let you introduce yourself.
No, that's the perfect introduction. Thank you. I'm Chuck. I'm working on a project called Nodepen, which promises to be a place for visual programming from the web. And what I'm starting with is this wonderful program called Grasshopper, because we all know it quite well. I think I know it incredibly well. It's the thing that got me into software to begin with. And there's been a lot of like experiments and like proof of concepts and like very limited demos for a while now. But thanks to Speckle, I'm finally in a position where I can say that it will deliver on the promise of doing Grasshopper from the web, 3D and all. And today in this place felt like a good place to show where it's at and why I'm excited about that. So I will share. I'm trying to share, but it's not.
Interesting. Maybe permissions, StandUp?
I'm pretty sure you could. Are you not allowed to share anything?
I don't know what.
Did you try?
Let's see. I'm so sorry. Oh, there. Okay. It was tucked away.
We're open source, so anyone can share anything.
There you go. Very public. All right. Another. Okay. Where did I leave off? Well, I'll just show you. Yeah, where it's at. Why I said the things I said. What we're looking at is the interface for like creating scripts. Very heavily leaning on Grasshopper at the moment. So if I were to do something like create a component to create a polygon, I could jump back over to our 3D view, and we'll end up seeing nothing too thrilling, but we will end up seeing a polygon. I don't have Revit open, so I don't have excuses. I'm sorry. We'll try that again, and then I'll stop demoing. And so we'll just pretend that didn't happen. What I did was I put down a component to create a polygon, and in Grasshopper, what that does is spits out a polygon. And the first part of why this is exciting is not just because of the shape itself, but because the polygon is the result of Grasshopper being written to a Speckle stream, and I'm using Speckle as the way to like surface and interact with the data from a separate front end. Right. Right now, this is very literally the same viewer, so it's a bit silly. But yes, that's Speckle geometry being created or sent from Grasshopper and viewed from the web in a way that is pretending to be Grasshopper. The second part of why it's exciting to me is because, and I'm going to need to make a script real quick and to be able to talk about it, is the nature of the results that we're getting now. So the past few times I've talked about Grasshopper on the web, I've had a lot of trouble because I have to show the geometry, right, because it's visual. But I also thought for some reason that I'd be able to also somehow do 3D visuals on my own. But Speckle provides not only a great way to store my 3D data, it provides a great way to visualize it, right, in a very beautiful way. So I'm just making the script that everyone has seen a million times in some way, shape, or form. Are there any opinions about the weather while we wait for me to finish? None? Okay.
This is more
Or just-
interesting than whether.
We're just watching you. No
We're all
pressure.
just, yeah. It's hot.
So, yeah, I don't know why it's running slow. I'll have to see. It's going through. All right, and so here's your, oh, I missed the connections in there. Sorry, everyone, the big reveal. We'll just watch it together. This is your twisty tower from Grasshopper. Right. And it's 3D geometry. This is like Grasshopper doing Grasshopper work. I love jumping back to this to see it, or the new viewer, as a Speckle fanboy these days. Very cool. But yes, plenty of work to be done. But Grasshopper is happening in 3D on the web thanks to Speckle, and I wanted to show that off. My closing comment, I did write it down. Cinder, can you please show the screen again that we were on?
Yes, that would be Bilal, who's
Oh,
also
I'm sorry.
For the link, that we could also share it in the chat if you want.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. So the link here is where ongoing development is going to be like publicly interactable. I'm currently working on a few puzzles regarding how to actually deploy this in a way that like anyone can pick up and use, not just one person. So if you visit at this exact instant, you're going to get a whole lot of nothing, but you'll be able to play with the viewer. Yeah, in the coming weeks, as I continue development, this is where you'll be able to see it. I will definitely be posting in the forums as things come together. But yeah, thank you for having me on, because I knew you all would be here today, and I wanted to take the chance to say thanks in person and show what I'm able to do just because of what you guys are making. So thank you all.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, chat. I see we have a question from Ahmed about what kernel is used for geometry calculations.
Is that to me? Is that?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
literally, it is quite literally running Grasshopper. It's using Rhino Compute. So the components will look the same, the geometry types are the same. And that's part of what makes Speckle so great as well, is because all the connectors were ready to go. Speckle has a wonderful suite of connectors for working with Rhino geometry. I think it's Grasshopper is where everything started, right?
Yep.
So it's kind of romantic in that respect too.
So in essence, Nodepen is just like a Grasshopper file builder, no? And then you strip that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome.
It's from the web, make some scripts, run them, and see them.
Question from me: does it support plugins?
From where I'm sitting, like I still have a lot to do before I can play with them. It looks like anything that can be installed via Yak, the package manager on Rhinos these days, should just come along for free. I'm sure there'll be some unexpected surprises, but yes, I also get to do that too.
Can we have Speckle Nodepen plugin?
You want to do Speckle stream interaction from? Why not? Sure. Yeah, I can't say no to you guys in public, but thanks for that.
Any other questions for Chuck? So thank you, Chuck. Actually, before talking about SpeckleCon, I just wanted to ask if anyone wants to share anything or demo anything that you recently built using Speckle. Now is your time. Otherwise, you can always let us know if you would like to showcase something at the next community stand-up. And now here's a reminder that we are introducing SpeckleCon this year. It's an online conference for AEC where we will be having lots of interesting speakers and inspiring sessions for you to join. It is free, it's open, and it's online. So it will be November 14th and 15th of November. We will share the registration link in September. So stay tuned. And you'll also receive lots of emails from me because you said that you were compliant to that. So, yeah, I will remind you of it. And that is all from us. I think we just wanted to also welcome any new joiners who haven't been to our previous community stand-ups. You can always join our forum to stay tuned with what's going on in the community and meet peers and just share your knowledge with us, which we always love to see. So thank you so much for joining us. And if you have questions, well, there you go. Feel
There
free
you
to
go.
unmute. We're leaving time for that. So now is your time to ask and bombard us with questions. And I saw a hand raised. Maybe it was a mistake. Was it?
Probably it's
Yeah,
Google Meet.
I don't know.
Yeah, well,
I see he's here.
hello. Yeah,
Hello.
it was kind of a mistake because I was looking for the applaud button and then
Yeah,
I raised my
emojis.
hand. But I also have a question actually. I'm Joost, working for Arab as a geotechnical computational engineer. And yeah, with my geotechnical work, this is actually a question to Kate. I'm mostly working in world coordinates, right? And then the structural engineers and the MEP engineers, they use Revit coordinates or some other coordinate system from structural analysis software. And then I saw this podcast from the Geospatial Index, and then she was talking about having this coordinate conversion system somehow built into Speckle as well. I searched around the community forum a bit and couldn't find the roadmap, but I did find like that there was a discussion going on also from Jeroen de Bruin, who's also working at Arab, about geolocation and like some pretty awesome stuff with Mapbox as well. So I was curious where you guys are taking it and what you're planning to do, because I hear that it's on the road, but like where is it exactly going and what time frame do you have in mind?
Hi, that's it's very nice to see that someone actually watched the podcast. I have a question in return. What kind of a roadmap are you thinking of? Because, for example, from our side, we implemented bit by bit and then see what's the feedback and where to go further. And something I had in mind in particular is now to combine the GIS coordinate system kind of hack that we implemented to make one-way transfer from world coordinates to the local coordinates. And then it works so far quite smooth. And the next step would be to find a more aligned technique to assign the coordinates in, let's say, Revit, other CAD software, and GIS software. But I would also like to hear what is exactly a roadmap that you had in mind, or maybe anybody other in the call had in mind.
Yeah, so at the moment we're mainly working with Grasshopper and Rhino using Elephant attributes, and that's how we hack around with it. We use the attributes to store the world coordinates of, for example, the columns, such that then we have that data as well in Revit. And not Revit's not so important, but for example, data comes from Revit with all the columns and the piles, and then we need to know at what location in the real world those columns and piles are to do geotechnical analysis, because our geotechnical borehole, they are in real world coordinates. So actually both ways around would work for us, because Rhino is capable of working with real world coordinates as well as Revit coordinates. So maybe this hack that you're saying and that you're talking about would already work for us. Like the reason that we're thinking of Speckle is that we don't have to mess around with Elephant attributes, but that's just somehow automatic. That would be nice, but yeah.
So it's not about the transfer between applications, it's just
Yeah.
the actual numbers inside Revit.
No, it's not. Sorry, that was confusing it. Like from Revit, it goes to Rhino, and then from a different file, our geotechnical data comes in, and then we need to combine it to, for example, determine the length of piles based on our geotechnical data, and that we do it in Rhino. But the data that comes in from Revit, it comes in Revit coordinates, and then the data from geotech, it comes in world coordinates. And then inside Rhino, we don't care whether we're working in Revit coordinates or world coordinates, because it can handle both. But we need to convert one of them.
I see. Well, that's it's an interesting another approach. Instead of app to app, make Speckle internal conversions and have it distributed to any application. I would definitely recommend to leave this comment in the forum, which whatever you described. Yeah, so
All right.
we'll have a full track of that.
Okay, yeah. Should I just add that to the geolocation?
You can even make a
Ignore
new
it, that's
post,
already
like a
done.
request of a new feature.
Okay,
Very nice. Thanks.
you're welcome. And yeah, thanks.
And of course, Kate, people listen to the podcast. It's great. And if not, I will also put a link in the chat. Any other questions or comments, reactions? Okay. Well, you get 10 minutes back. That's a wrap. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, all.
Thanks,
Jeff.
everyone. Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
Have a great
Thank you.
day.
Bye.
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 Bye.